Hello, everyone. Good to be together. Good to sit together. Um, I'm going to start with a quote that I'll put into the chat. I'll say it, but just so you have access to it. It's a fragment from T.S. Eliot. I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope, for hope would be hope for the wrong thing. I've been um, I've been going back to this lately. I'm not ready to do away with the vocabulary of hope. I believe it can be resurrected. We can come into kind of remake that word or listen to it in a new way. But of late, I think when I notice in myself when I think about hope, almost always wanting things to go back to how they were, like hoping that something will be restored to how it was. And so the word that, and this is one of the midot, one of the virtues that um, I know many of us have worked with, the word that I've been going to instead of late is trust, bitachon. So it's a mysterious word. It's a mysterious practice. I notice just in what people are naming, and I'm completely with you, and it's very resonant with my own experience. Just people said really a lot of our prayers are prayers for some relief from anxiety, some coming into whatever word we end up using, really naming, as Mark did at the beginning, the stressors of being a human being at this time, to say nothing of whatever each of us are holding, right, in our private lives. There's bitachon is I'm going to put now into the chat. It's this is sort of we're going to unpack this traditional language a bit, but this is sort of the instructions that Rabbi Menachem Mendel Leffin of Satana, this is a book from the 1800s, Cheshbon HaNefesh, writes about all the different midot or traits, virtues. So these are like Rabbi Leffin's marching orders if we're working with trust. He says, if worry comes to your heart, take it as a warning from God who loves you. Examine your deeds and take counsel with those whose advice you seek. When you have fulfilled God's will, trust God and your serenity will return. So I imagine that might speak to some of us and not speak to others of us. For me, I really have, needed to kind of sitting in the presence of these instructions and try to translate them. I think the main thing that I get from how he begins is if worry comes to your heart, first of all, just notice it. And maybe that seems like obvious, and maybe we would say, well, that's the whole problem. But I find that when we can say, I'm worried, then we're no longer merged with the experience of being worried. There's something in us, some kind of deeper internal witness that's able to see that we are worried. And I think that's that witness is a more trustworthy narrator. Um, so just noticing it, right? I had a teacher who would say, you feel the feeling, you notice the feeling, you feel it, and then you don't log into it. You see it, you see it as distinct from you. It's something that if it was us, it would always be here. Something that comes and goes. So just as a first step, and maybe in some sense, this is enough. We don't merge with the worry. Um, I don't like the warning language as much as like see it as like, okay, there's an opening here. Like so we try to find a place, if there is a place of any agency we have that we might have, even in small ways. And I love this idea of taking counsel with those whose advice you seek, in the spirit of being an unreliable narrator. I mean, I think this is just such the gift of spiritual community, of chavruta, of friendship, this sense that we often will not be able to find the trust in relationship to our own problems, but someone near us will be who has a calmer nervous system than us, and particularly around our problems has a calmer nervous system, will be able to hold the trust for us until we're able to come into relationship with it ourselves. So sometimes these are teachers, sometimes these are friends, sometimes, but there's just, to me, this feels like such a key point. We don't have to hold it on our own. Um, I want to say that I think it's not like a trust that's Pollyanna-ish in the sense of trust that everything will be okay. That's sort of like the hope thing, hope that it will be restored to how it is. It's like a deeper trust, right, that we're being asked to rest into. I'm remembering at the first meditation retreat that I ever attended, Rabbi Joanna Katz, and I think she quoted Rabbi Sheila Peltz Weinberg with this, but what she gave us was this teaching that's really stayed with me, that the natural resting place of the heart is in openness, like, and kindness, that's what the heart wants to do. And this was really in terms of like, what is it we place our trust in, right? Um, if it's not in the sense that things will be okay in the way that we want them to be okay, necessarily. So I love this thought about the natural resting place of the heart, left to its own devices, is in openness, is in kindness. And my first thought hearing that is, can this be true? Like, and if it is true, then the second thought is like, how can I let the heart do this? And the answer is, you don't actually have to do anything. You really just can let the heart do it. So maybe in some sense, trust that the heart will take care of things from here if we get out of the way just a little. Again, we find that places where we do have agency, but um, two more things, and then I really want to go into the into sitting with this. Um, One is, I think it can be very useful to think about moments where we have experienced great trust, that we know in our cellular being. We know we carry it with us. It's a memory that feels vibrant and true. And so sometimes when I'm thinking, okay, I want to practice with trust, I want to be more trustful, and I don't, right, I don't quite know how to get into it. Sometimes we can call up a memory. And the memory that I've been working with lately is when years and years ago, when my brother Paul and I were driving across the country from California to Providence, Rhode Island, where he was in design school. We had we didn't get very far before our clutch burned out, and we had to use all of the money on the trip to put in a new clutch. And so we had to basically drive straight from Arizona to Providence, Rhode Island, just stopping for Taco Bell and gas, basically. And we would just wake up the other brother. We would just drive until we were too tired, wake up the other brother. We would immediately go to sleep. And just that image, and I know we all have this, whether we're the one sleeping or the one driving, or both, but that image of the trust, when you trust and you're sleeping and someone else is driving you where you need to go, or you're driving and you're so moved by looking at the person next to you who's sleeping. So sometimes we get too theoretical about it. How can I alchemize the trust? And sometimes we can just think like, what's a memory I have of trust that I know in my body? And we can kind of attune ourselves to that a little bit to remind ourselves of that. The last thing I'll say is, with a lot of these midot, these virtues or character traits, it can be hard to work with them in terms of trying to cultivate them. But sometimes we can work with their opposite, as we were talking about with worry. Maybe worry is the shadow side of trust. Um, like if we're working with patience, sometimes we try to cultivate patience, but we can just sometimes it's we just get intimate with impatience. We really know what impatience feels like, and we just it gets thinned out more and more, and what's left is our fragrance. Our very fragrance, our very being, which is a fragrance of patience. So sometimes with trust, maybe what we do is we work with worry. We try to really sit with it with great compassion on ourselves, knowing we share this with everyone on the call and beyond. And we just wonder with the kind of loving attentiveness, light touch, if it begins to get a little thinner, and maybe then what we're left with is the fragrance of trust, right? That's the heart just left to its own devices. We don't have to do anything to get to the trust. So if anything in there feels resonant to kind of guide you into the silence, hold on to its coattails. You could be thinking of a memory of trust that is really inside you. Could be working, sitting in the presence of worry with love and gentleness, and let it see if it begins to thin out. Could be really focusing on Joanna and Sheila's image of the heart doing what it wants to do. Or whatever a tried and true practice is as you come into the silence, whatever would be helpful. So we'll sit for about 13 minutes. Harini mekabel alai et mitzvat habore ve'ahavta l'reaha kamocha u'vizchut ze eftach pi. Behold, may we, as a fruit of this practice and our time together, may we move into our days in alignment with the commandment to love our fellow as ourselves. And by this merit, may we open up our mouths.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Joshua Boettiger. Beautiful teaching on the midah, the quality of bitachon, and guiding us beautifully into experiencing that midah together today as we move into Shabbat. And friends, let's seal our practice as we do each day. If you're not reciting Kaddish today, I want to invite you to lend your support to those who are. If you're observing a yahrzeit or you're in mourning, or if it's your custom to join in the mourner's Kaddish, you're welcome to do so. And Harry will share the words on the screen. You can put the name or names of anyone you'd like to honor today in the chat now. And if you're reciting Kaddish, please join me by rising in body or in spirit. You can unmute at this time. Itgadal, Yikdash Shemei Rabbah, Na'ama Tibrach Rutei, Kamich Malchutei, Hayechon V'Yomikon, Hayeh Dekol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Mizman Kariv, Ru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach, Olam Lameh Amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal, shemei v'kudshah v'yikru. Eila min kol birchata v'shirata, ushbechata v'nechamata, amiran v'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Mishmaya, V'chaim Aleinu Kol Yisrael, V'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mamav, U'yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Yisrael, V'Yakol Yosef Tevel, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Friends, thanks so much for being here today. I saw at least one comment in the chat of somebody, I didn't catch the name of who's here for the first time. Always feels wonderful to see that. So welcome to anyone who joined us for the first time today, or if you joined us recently. If you're leaving us now, just want to let you know what the lineup is for our teachers for next week. I'm putting that up. Patricia, welcome aboard. So nice to have you. And I put in the schedule of teachers for next week for those who may be interested in looking ahead to next week. Thanks to Harry Goboa holding our text space today, beautifully as always, and our teacher today, Rabbi Joshua Boettiger, Jewish chaplain at Bard College, and Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the Center for Contemporary Musar. And everyone's invited to stay on for conversation with Rabbi Boettiger. And if you have a question you'd like to ask him, please put it in the chat. Write it as Jeffrey did, with preface it by writing question, all in caps. I'm going to take a look at that, Jeffrey, and I'll work your question. And if anyone else who has a question, feel free to put that in, or just share reflections if you like on today's practice. Yeah, Jeffrey's writing. You said something about like the heart's natural place is love. What do you need to do to tap into this? You answered nothing, just let it. What about the Yetzer Hara pulling you towards self-interest? Okay, that's an advanced level question. We'll get to that in a second. Let's break that down, okay? First of all, we'll get to that, Jeffrey. Thank you for that important question. But I just want to reiterate or like reflect back, Joshua, I think how I heard some of that teaching that was extremely helpful for me. First of all, you just reminded us that whatever it is we're feeling in any given moment is not synonymous with our being, right? That it's a thought or a feeling. Let's take anxiety or worry, right? Very helpful, first of all, to say to notice that, well, anxiety, even if I'm anxious 99% of the time, there's 1% of the time when I'm not. It comes, ebbs and flows, comes and goes. And as you said, you also can like focus on the fact that when we're feeling anxious, it might be somebody else who's not feeling that as intensely, and their lack of anxiety can help us kind of release that anxiety. I was thinking about how clergy are often in pastoral settings described or aspire to be non-anxious presence for that very reason, right? To be able to hold that space for the anxiety and not add to it in some way. But what I'm interested in is that, what made me realize that so there's always a space between us and that feeling. And so when you talked about, you said, Joanna Katz and teaching in the name of Sheila Peltz Weinberg, I think that's where you said, right? Was Joanna's teaching that the natural state of the heart is what you say?
Um, I forget exactly how she put it, but
Good.
like openness, kindness,
Right,
like
right,
it
right.
wants to, yeah.
That there's a space. So then you ask that question about like, what do we actually trust? What do we trust in, right? And it struck me, and I'm drawing a little bit on teaching from the last couple of days also, where we had a beautiful teaching from Naomi Schifrin about expansiveness, about the divine, God slash the sacred as infinite expanse, Gadol, great, Benora, awesome, and loving, and that we can actually tap into that in our experience, and that enables us to hold the anxiety within that space. So when you said that, I think I made that connection. Like, yes, um, even when I'm flooded with anxiety, worry, pain, fear, grief, whatever strong, challenging emotion there can be an awareness that there's a space there that is able to hold it. And I don't know about others, but I can actually feel that in my own experience. Like in life's worst moments, I've had that moment of thinking, well, this is terrible. But I'm able to hold it, right? Where's that come from in some way? And you're right, like some of it is support from other people, but it's sort of like I didn't know
Hmm.
I had that in me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's how I relate to what you said. So I just want to reflect that back, see what, if you want to comment on that, and then we can talk about the Yetzer Hara a little bit. I
Yeah.
always love
No,
talking about
I
the Yetzer
love,
Hara.
yeah, I love that. That there's different ways that we can get to that more capacious, like broader witnessing of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
through calling on someone else, like
Mm-hmm.
I need a lifeline. Um,
Right.
or I know what you mean, and it's mysterious. Like and that's a very powerful thing that you just said, even in the hardest moments often like there's something in us that's sort of seeing, or there's something wiser that we're aware of. Not always. Sometimes we're completely merged with it, right?
Right.
But it's mysterious, it really
Mm-hmm.
is. It is mysterious. And I think we're all concerned now of like in terms of working with like a trust practice, like how do we do it in a way where we're not using some of this language to duck things that like I mean, I guess that's always the dilemma. But I feel like I feel like it's the farthest thing from a navel gazing thing for us to practice with trust. Like I would say the future of our of our shared existence sort of depends on us finding our way to like a re-identification or seeing or access to a deeper trust. Even if we
Yeah.
don't know the form that it's going to take or where it will lead us, and we definitely don't.
What would you say? I don't know if you have a response to Jeffrey's question there about just to jump ahead. Like it seems like in that accessing or tapping into the natural place of the heart as love, um, and then in that awareness, noticing self interest. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it would be great if you could give us a little like nutshell version of how you understand the Yetzer Hara, especially from the perspective of the Center for Contemporary Musar, and how that plays into all of this.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, like the Yetzer Hara is usually translated as the in rabbinic literature as the evil inclination, and it sort of reads like the proverbial devil on the shoulder. But the rabbis are clear that it's this thing that's this impulse we have that's very I mean, the Center for Contemporary Musar, I think Ira Stone and Beulah Trey defined it as the impulse towards self-absorption, which
Mm-hmm.
is which is necessary sometimes. We use it for everything. We just become
Right.
habituated to it, and we just sort of let the Yetzer Hara just drive the car. We just get
Mm-hmm.
tired of, so, but like we're talking about with this awareness practice, like the Yetzer Hara is not us, and so um, uh, Ira and Bu came up with this idea of there's only one Yetzer, there's only one creative,
Mm-hmm.
animating force. And when
Right.
we're too constricted or
Right.
too porous, it comes out as Ra. And when we're semi-permeable, it comes out as Tov, good, where it manifests more with curiosity and wanting to be of service and all of these things. So that's helped me get less because then I don't see like there's these dual forces in me. There's like the heart, and then there's the Yetzer Hara, which is working to like, you know, like just be a thorn in the side of what the heart wants to do. It's more I can see, and maybe I saw one question about agency.
Yep.
Sometimes we'll find that like, okay, like I am a little closed and maybe I have good reason to be. And if that's so, that's fine. Or maybe, but sometimes I can say, like, okay, how can I get a little more semi-permeable here? And that's a moment of agency. I mean, we can control if we're able to be semi-permeable sometimes to some degree. So I feel like I also feel that with like, where do we find agency? And I feel like other people with Musar language talk about choice points and that kind of thing,
Mhm. Right.
Um, but then I would say like the meditation practice really to Jeffrey's question, like it really helps us with the Yetzer Hara because I can just say like, okay, the heart's doing what it wants to do. I do feel these conflicting things, but I don't see them as a force equal to the heart. It's more something that's like a cloud covering the sun or something like that,
Right.
and it also has its place in you know, our inner kingdom.
So just to put a point on that, semi-permeable, the way I understand that, and I'm 100% aligned with that description of the Yetzer Hara, the so-called evil inclination, is when you use the term semi-permeable, that means the ego, the I, which in a state of fear, right, or maybe excessive greed, or desire, right, exaggerated desire, the I becomes very strong, and and that it becomes that kind of cloud blocking the sun, right? The semi-permeable kind of allows that to shine through. It still preserves the fact that we have an identity and a self, but that self is connected to the larger reality and able to respond. And the Yetzer is able to flow towards the good rather than the bad, then, would you
Nice.
say?
Yes, that's
That's
great.
kind of
Yeah, I like that.
spiritual cardiology, I call it. Or as I told you before we came on, I have a plumber coming up here right now. So this is kind of spiritual plumbing going on
Yeah,
here to dissolve that obstruction, where Jeffrey says, right, circumcise your heart, right, which is a phrase in the Bible to kind of remove that excess covering. That's really, really, very beautiful. Um, I also saw this thing, Joshua, which, by the way, I want to recommend to everybody that they, on Yom HaAtzmaut, I watched this documentary that I thought was a new documentary, but it turns out actually it's about 9 years old, about Ben Gurion, David Ben Gurion. And part of it that's so fascinating is about his interest in Buddhism and this. He had a relationship with the first prime minister of Burma, Una. And there's this interview. They're both being interviewed by Edward R. Murrow. And Una is saying the problem is the I. We have to deal with the I. We have to overcome I. That means, capital letter I, consciousness. And Gurian says, no, no, can't get rid of the I. But the I has to be a human I. It has to, that's the term he uses. A human I, meaning, which I took to mean, and then he segued into love your, the verse from
Oh, oh,
the Torah portion, which you ended with, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha," love your fellow as yourself. He actually went right there and said the I has to be one that is able to be loving towards others at the same time. So it's called Ben Gurion Epilogue. It's on. You can watch it online.
oh,
It's
that's great.
it's
Yeah.
quite remarkable. All right, let me just see. Um, Spiritual plumbing. I never used that one before.
There's one on Lori was writing that
Yeah.
if waiting for calm, clarity, or a peaceful
Ah,
feeling, and I can trust my decision more
yep.
when it's in a worry, trust, or a worry, uncertainty loop, but the feeling is often elusive. Actually, I just want to say, I would just as someone I was saying Kaddish for my mother, even though she died a few years ago, but and someone else I think Shira is I think a student of my mom's as well who put her name in. So I was touched to see that. And the reason that I'm raising that is my mom's practice was wait in the unknowing. Like even though it seems like everything in our society is pushing us to know more quickly and to have instant opinions and of course, sometimes we do have moments where we have to decide right away, but most of the time, we can really have a practice of waiting into the not knowing and until we have more of a clear sense. And where a better decision will come through. So I just wanted to name my mom and appreciate Lori's question and
Thank you
also
for that.
Shira.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
That's
And it looks like
beautiful.
your plumber is here right on time with
My
that.
plumber's here right on time
Yeah.
to deal with my Yetzer Hara. I have to lie down on the table, see if they can take care of it. All right, everyone. Joshua, always so that's delightful to have you lead us, and I really appreciate it. Wishing everyone a sweet Shabbat. Looking forward to our week of practice next week. Just a quick reminder, and maybe Harry will put in the chat again that Rabbi Joshua leads a meditation for the Center for Contemporary Musar every Wednesday at 10 a.m. And you can sign up to get that information. I don't know, Harry, if you got that handy, I have it here. Can put it in. And wishing everyone Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Take good care.